Hey guys, welcome back to the Essential Astrocast. I'm Veronica. I am so happy to be with you. We are right on the heels of the new moon in Scorpio, which came in last night about 11:30. It was specifically 11:38 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this was last night here on the East Coast. So I'm in New York City, so I'm always going to use Eastern Standard Time. You will have to do some math to figure out what that is for you, but generally, when we have a new moon late at night, the whole day we're in the dark of the moon. So, what that basically means is that the moon is not shining in the sky. So, we're in the darkness of our soul, so to say. So, in Vedic astrology, they say that I don't practice Vedic, I practice Western astrology, but in Vedic astrology, they say that the dark of the moon, the day or two before the new moon, is the least lucky days of the year. So, I don't necessarily subscribe to such a fated view of astrology, but it's just an interesting perspective to think about. So, generally, in those dark days of the moon, which for us, this new moon cycle or this lunar cycle were Saturday and Sunday. So, those are days to really, stay home if you can and do your yoga practice, do your meditation, spend time going inward and really feeding your soul. Especially with a new moon in Scorpio, you may have felt this weekend like you really wanted to be by yourself. Other people may have been really annoying to you this weekend, and that is okay. So, new moon in Scorpio, definitely, anytime the moon is in Scorpio, it makes us want to pull away from the world a little bit. So, Scorpio is a sign that rules death, it rules our relationship with the spirit world in some sense. I also consider that partially the 12th house and Pisces, but it is no wonder that the Day of the Dead and Halloween comes during Scorpio season. So we're going to talk about that today with so much more else. So I just want to really jump into it because we have so much going on this week. And I want you guys to have these dates and know what's happening so that you can really use the astrology, harness the energy of the astrology, and take care of yourself and move your life forward in the way that you are wanting. So I want to start with that new moon just because it's definitely still in the ethers. We're still feeling it. It was last night. I like to do my new moon ritual after the new moon because when you are in the dark days of the moon, like I mentioned, then you are in that waning energy of going inward. Now we are in the waxing energy again of growing toward the full moon. So today is a great day. If you haven't done your new moon ritual yet, do it today, do it tonight. You can also do it tomorrow. If you don't have time today, that's okay. I always say like the 48 hours after the new moon is really prime time. And then truthfully, you can do your new moon ritual anytime, before the full moon. So but ideally, you're here, you're watching this, you're tuned in, do it tonight, do it tomorrow if you can. So new moon in Scorpio, a lot of this, it's so interesting. New moon is really about bringing things in, right? But Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, and Pluto actually rules our bowels. It rules the part of ourself that releases the toxicity in our bodies. So there is a sense of releasing the toxicity with this new moon. So if you are feeling like there's a lot of letting go happening right now, you are not alone. I had someone write me today and say that she just broke up with a boyfriend and is thinking of leaving her job. Talk about, releasing it all at once. So there is an energy of releasing and letting go. It was interesting. I was listening to one of my favorite astrologers, Ann Ortley, and she was talking on her podcast about Elijah Cummings, who passed away. And apparently he entered public service 36 years ago, and he left his body now, like right before the Day of the Dead, when the veil is very thin between the two worlds. 36 years is a really important timeline that we're looking at right now because 36 years ago, Saturn and Pluto were conjunct. And now they were conjunct in Libra, and now 36 years later, they're going to be conjunct in Capricorn in January. So this new moon is really an amazing opportunity to check in with where your energy lies and what stuff is coming up. Pay attention to the messages, because this is foreshadowing what's going to be going on for us in January. Don't feel stressed to make a decision. Don't feel stressed to be like, I've got to decide if I'm going to leave my job this week. If you're just starting to think about leaving your job, it might be that this is the time to craft your exit strategy and really put the plan in place come early January, because January 12th is going to be that meetup of Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn. And that is going to really be the moment where we take all these dreams, we take all this preparation that we're working with now, that maybe we've been working with all year, and we put it into action. So if you are, feeling really called to go internal, to pull away from the world, to do some journaling or work with a therapist or a coach and really identify what you want to create in 2020, this is the time. And this Scorpio season and this Mercury retrograde in Scorpio is going to really help you get clear on what that next step is, okay? So we had this new moon yesterday. It was opposing Uranus, and then today the sun is opposing Uranus in perfect degree. So don't be surprised if you're surprised, So anytime Uranus is in the mix, surprises are to be expected. It was very funny. So we have new moon in Scorpio, which is a water sign, opposing Uranus and Taurus. Uranus and Taurus, Taurus is a sign that really likes to be at home. It's a sign that really likes luxury. It's a sign that really likes to be comfortable and in familiar surroundings. And then we've got Mars squaring Saturn. So Mars squaring Saturn, we talked about it last week, so I'm not going to talk too much about it today. But Mars squaring Saturn, it's like driving with the parking brake on. You want to go because Mars wants to go, although he's in Libra right now, so he's a little confused because Mars in Libra is a little bit like, it's all about me, but now I feel like I have to worry about the other person. Why do I have to do that? So Mars is a little confused in Libra. It's not his favorite place. So he's in Libra, a little confused already, but he really wants to go. And Saturn is squaring him in Capricorn, and Saturn is basically the parking brake, keeping you from going as fast as you think you should be going, and you have no idea why. And then you're like, oh my God, the parking brake is on, it's Saturn. So we talked about that last week, and I really think that is working in our favor right now, because otherwise we would be wanting to take the action, wanting to make the decision, and it's not necessarily a great time to do that. Funnily enough, I'll give you a personal anecdote. Last night at 1 a.m, I was woken up on my super because the apartment below had a flood, and they thought it was coming from my apartment, which turns out it was, but we didn't realize that at the time. And that was so new moon in Scorpio, because new moon in Scorpio, it's like the new moon in Scorpio. Scorpio is like the things that you can't see and you don't know. It's water sign. It's water that you can't see. It's the emotions that you can't see. It's the stuff, the stuff you can't see, And then Uranus is surprises. And so Uranus opposing this new moon, it's like, of course there was a flood and we had no idea and we couldn't see it. So we had no idea there was a leak, rather. We couldn't see the leak. And unfortunately, our neighbors had some flooding situation going on. So new moon in Scorpio opposing Uranus, be ready for surprises. This will keep you on your toes. Today, the sun is opposing Uranus. We are still on our toes. But we will be leaving this energy in the next couple of days. So not to worry, it's not something that's lingering, but pay attention to the messages you're receiving. Pay attention to the stuff that's coming up. Pay attention when someone says maybe there's a leak. There's something that you might not have seen. Okay, so I want to also mention that with Halloween this week, it's the Day of the Dead, also called All Saints Day. There's lots of different religious and cultural connotations to this holiday. I am not an expert on this, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. The one thing I understand about this is that this is a week where the veil between our realm here on the planet, our tangible human realm, and the spirit realm, that veil is thin. So this is a time where people often see ghosts. This is a time that people often feel like the spirit of their dead grandparents comes through. A friend of mine posted on Instagram today that she saw a safety pin, and her dad loves safety pins, and her dad passed on. I was just with her yesterday. We were talking about that experience of having a parent pass on, because we have both lost our fathers. And she got this sign from her father, which was a safety pin on the sidewalk today. So, if you have that relationship with someone in the spirit realm, if you have that relationship of send me a sign and you want to be clear about what that sign is, you might see it this week. So one of my signs is that, and this is a sign that I asked my father for, whenever I hear Frank Sinatra randomly, I know my dad is around. So not like I put Frank Sinatra on Spotify, not that. But if I'm randomly at a nail salon, or I'm randomly at a restaurant, or I'm randomly like at a bar that wouldn't normally play that, like it's when it's a random occurrence, or like in an airport, like somewhere random, and it happens pretty frequently. So ask for some symbol, some sign from your loved ones on the other side, and you will probably receive that sign this week. One of my friends, she says whenever she sees a perfectly white feather on the street, that is a sign from her father. So, you can pick something that's important to you and see what shows up for you. So that's something I wanted to mention. The other thing about Scorpio, and it's because it is the sign that rules the dead, and because it is the sign that rules the occult, and it's the sign that rules the stuff underlying the surface, and the releasing of the stuff that's toxic for us. Because it rules all of that, Scorpios are often great therapists. They're great surgeons. They're great doctors, because they're great healers, because they're able to see the stuff that someone else might not be able to see. So when you are processing grief or sadness, or talking to the spirit world, which I know is not really the subject of this podcast, Astrocast, often when people lose someone, it is an opportunity for forgiveness, and it's an opportunity to feel more connected to the larger collective of humanity. So I think sometimes the Scorpio energy can be very heavy this time of year. Again, it's no wonder that Halloween, Day of the Dead, All Saints Day happens during Scorpio season. Nothing is a coincidence. I don't know how that got planned. I'll have to research that this week, but it really is an opportunity for forgiveness, of letting go of the old resentments, of releasing the stuff that is holding us back, that emotional stuff that's holding us back. That is what Scorpio season is about. And it's perfectly in alignment with our cultural calendar, because after Scorpio season comes Sagittarius season, and Sagittarius season is holiday season, and that is the time we spend with our families. So this is a really good opportunity to work through some of those old resentments and do some work with forgiveness if you have been reluctant to do that work. Okay. So I want to get into what's going on this week. So I'm just going to go through the week for you. Monday, that's today, the sun is opposing Uranus. I told you about that. The moon is in Scorpio. Be open to hearing the surprises, the messages that are around you. Tuesday, the moon is going to be void of course tomorrow from 1:34 p.m. Eastern time to 5:58 p.m. Eastern time. So that means that pretty much the entire afternoon is the moon void of course. So if you have important stuff to do tomorrow, if you want to launch stuff, if you want to send a launch email, a sales email, if you want to put something out into the world or have an important meeting, try to do it in the morning tomorrow on Tuesday. But then at 5:58 p.m., the moon will go into Sagittarius, and that will start to lighten up the feelings that we're having from the new moon in Scorpio. The moon will conjunct Venus and then Mercury on Tuesday as well. So one of the things about Scorpio that's really important is to honor being honest about your emotions. Allow yourself to be honest about your emotions when the moon is in Scorpio, or we're having a lot of Scorpio energy. When the moon is it's going to conjunct Venus and then Mercury tomorrow, it is a day where, because Mercury is going to be retrograde soon, so we're in the shadow, we're preparing for it. Trust the messages you're getting. Trust what people are saying. Believe it. It's true. And also be really honest with yourself. That's really important. This whole Scorpio season is super important, and Mercury being retrograde makes it doubly important. So tomorrow, I just wanted you to say that if you hear something and you're like, I don't know, or if you have some stuff coming up, like yourself emotionally, trust it and go with it. It will actually be a great day to also, Tuesday and Wednesday this week are great days to have some important conversations in your life, because while the moon is void, of course, better in the morning, but Wednesday especially, Wednesday we're going to have Mercury conjunct Venus. So the moon is going to conjunct Venus and Mercury on Tuesday, and then Mercury and Venus are going to conjunct one another on Wednesday. So they are very close together in the sky, and Mercury is preparing to go retrograde. So basically what I'm saying is that Tuesday and Wednesday, if you see something, if you hear something, believe it, and trust your intuition, and have some of those important conversations, especially on Wednesday when Mercury and Venus are together. Because Mercury and Venus, when they come together, it's really smooth sailing for communication. So it's a great day to have a conversation that you've been meaning to have, maybe a tough one. Hopefully it'll go a little bit smoother on Wednesday. Thursday is Halloween. And the moon is void, of course, all day. The moon is in Sagittarius, but it's void, of course. So that'll be interesting. I'm sure that with Halloween, most people kind of keep their schedule light anyway, because whether you have children or you don't have children, a lot of people have children and they're taking them trick-or-treating. So it's kind of a day that people aren't working too hard anyway. So it is a day the moon's going to be void, of course. Try to take it easy, and don't eat too much candy. Be mindful of how you're feeling. The moon is going to be conjunct Jupiter, and so that can make us indulgent. So be really, know that you're going to be feeling like being indulgent, because that's part of Halloween, but that's also part of the moon and Jupiter coming together in Sagittarius. So you're going to be a little indulgent, and that's okay. Just be mindful that you might have a tendency to go overboard. So just, pump the brakes. But the moon is going to be conjunct Jupiter when on the same day that Mercury goes retrograde. So this is actually a really, really great thing. And this says to me that this Mercury retrograde is in our favor. The universe is always working in our favor. The universe is always putting things in place to help us learn the lessons that we need to learn so that we can move forward. And if you're not learning them, you're going to keep getting more stuff piled on until you pay attention, okay? So here's the deal. Mercury is going retrograde on Wednesday. Mercury in Scorpio, it's not my favorite thing because it's emotional and it's a little bit intense. But as I said in my new moon broadcast for my Essential Astrology members yesterday, which if you're not an Essential Astrology member, you should totally become one, because every new moon I give you a special broadcast. And then every full moon we get together on Zoom for a live video chat workshop and we look at all of our charts, okay? So if you're interested in that, go to my website, veronicapreti.com/membership. So with the new moon in Scorpio, and this Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, and the moon conjuncting Jupiter on this day, it's like this retrograde is really, really here for us to prepare for this complete transformation that we're going to co-create with the planets this January. So January 12th, Saturn and Pluto comes together in Capricorn. I've been talking about it every single week, so I won't talk about it too much today. But it is restructuring some part of your life. This Mercury retrograde is an opportunity for you to get clear on what it is you want to be restructuring, what it is that you need to be working on. Because Saturn's involved, so there's work involved. It's not going to be easy, but it's an opportunity for us to grow. And I posted that today on Instagram. We always, Scorpio forces us to, the moon doesn't like to be in Scorpio. So the moon in Scorpio is uncomfortable, but it's uncomfortable for a reason. It's there to push us to transform. So, with that in mind, I do believe that Thursday, Halloween, is actually a blessed day because the moon and Jupiter are coming together, and that's a blessing whenever that happens. Every month it happens, and it's always a blessed day. And Mercury retrograde is happening that day. Mercury is going to be retrograde till November 20th, so mark that in your calendars. And this retrograde season is going to be about a lot of the themes I've already talked about on this broadcast. You know, emotional honesty, releasing old wounds and trauma, letting go, forgiving so that you can transform and move forward. On Friday, it's going to be November 1st. It's going to be a new month. The moon is going to be in Capricorn and Venus is going to go into Sagittarius. I think this week is going to be super duper intense, but I think Venus going into Sagittarius on Friday is going to be like a bright light at the end of our week. Saturday, the moon conjunct Saturn and then Pluto, and this is a really interesting day. So I really want you to pay attention to how you feel on Saturday. And that's because this day it's going to have some flavors of the eclipse from July that we experienced already. And the eclipse coming up, the lunar eclipse coming up January 10th. So January 10th, we're going to have an eclipse at the end of December, and then we're going to have lunar eclipse January 10th, and then January 12th, Pluto and Saturn come together for their big date in the sky. So January 10th, it's going to be at 20 degrees Capricorn, okay, or 20 degrees Cancer, either way. And then this is playing into that. So the point of the matter, without getting into the astrology, like numbers and math and degrees with you, the most important thing you can do is just pay attention to what crops up on Saturday for you, because this is going to give you some clues as to what is being restructured in your life coming in January and where you need to do the work. The moon is also going to be squaring Mars. That can make us feel a little restless, okay? Especially because Mars is still, as I mentioned, in Libra, a place where he's just not super comfortable. Okay, so now Sunday, the moon is going to go into Aquarius, and it's going to square Uranus at 2:50 p.m. Eastern time. So this is another time where you want to be open and available to surprises. They might crop up. Pay attention to what happens. Whenever Aquarius and Uranus are involved, you can expect things to be a little bit innovative, a little bit different, a little bit out of the box. It likes to shake things up, so things might get shook up. And then this is all the lead up. This whole week is a big lead up to Mars square Pluto. So we had Mars square Saturn at the beginning of this week. That occurred with the new moon yesterday. And today we're feeling it. And we were feeling it last week, frankly. And now we're going to have Mars moving away from squaring with Pluto and move into squaring with, it's going to be squaring Pluto. It was moving away from squaring Saturn, now it's going to be squaring Pluto. The point of the matter, Mars square Pluto, that is a super transformative aspect. They share rulership of Scorpio. So Scorpio's co-rulers are going to be in a square, which is an uncomfortable aspect. This is an opportunity for transformation, but it is also an opportunity for a lot of conflict to come up. I would not be surprised if next week, because it's November 5th, it's going to be election day. There's not huge elections happening in the US. In fact, I'm not even sure what elections are even happening in New York, but it is election day, and I'm sure there's some important election somewhere, and I wouldn't be surprised if there is some big kerfuffle because Mars will be squaring Pluto, and that can really raise people's tempers. So that's next week, and I know I'm giving you something from next week, which I don't normally do, but I just want you to mark on your calendar, November 5th, go vote, but also be aware that people's tempers might be flared. The other thing I wanted to mention was that on Sunday, it's daylight savings ends. So you want to be mindful of that. Although our phones naturally, not naturally, they automatically switch now. So I don't know that anyone even cares or notices, other than the fact that we get 1 extra hour of sleep. So I hope this was useful. If you have questions, you know where to find me. If you are interested in the Essential Astrology membership, I would love to have you. We just had our new moon Essential Astrocast for just the members. That went out yesterday. And then we'll have our live full moon workshop together on November 12th. So if you want to be a part of that, then you're going to go to my website, veronicapreti.com/membership, and you are going to sign up for the membership. $25 a month will get you access to both new moon and full moon offerings. And the other thing is, as I mentioned, this Pluto-Saturn conjunction, it happens every 36 years. This is really, really, really big astrology. So if you haven't gotten a reading before, this is a great time to get a personal reading to see where this is activating your chart and where things are being restructured in your life, okay? So if you want to do a reading with me, you can always schedule that at veronicapreti.com/astrology. So I will hopefully see you next week, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Stay connected with me on Instagram. I will be posting stories throughout the week about all the pertinent astrology, okay? Lots of love, you guys. Take care.